Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the morning meeting on Two-Way. This program is based on the Network News Division's morning meetings, where they track the events of the day. At the end of the program, you get to participate. We'd love having you share your thoughts, questions. If you're here on the Two-Way platform, want to get in the conversation, raise your hand. The Network News Division's morning meetings are always a little bit cockeyed when the president's in Asia, because the president's ending his day just as the meetings begin. So the president is ending his day. He's landed in Japan, and we'll talk about that and a long list of other topics with Dan and Sean. Gentlemen, welcome in.
Good morning.
How Sean, independent of the news, what are you looking forward to this week?
To your point, I think at least through the weekend, we might have a relatively quiet week. There's no movement on there's no movement on the shutdown. We'll talk about that. And
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a lot of pomp and circumstance. So we'll get some news, but I think from our news cycle standpoint, it's going to happen while we're asleep.
Yeah. Dan, how are you handicapping Brewers Jays at this point?
The
Dodgers.
Jays.
Dodgers Jays, sorry.
Dodgers.
Yeah.
Here's the question. If Jays go up, does Trump sort of have like a hit tariff that he puts on the I think that's a possibility.
Strikeout tariff. Dan, anything you're looking forward to unrelated to news this week?
I got the marathon on Sunday, so I'm seeing if my body holds up and I can get from here to there.
Marathon's on Sunday. What will you eat on Saturday?
Bland toast, bland rice, boiled chicken. Like you do everything you can to try to ensure your body, from a nutrition standpoint, holds together. So,
but nothing spicy. Nothing spicy.
No.
Nope. And no. What about caffeine?
Oh yeah, definitely. And then Sunday morning I'll have like a quadruple espresso.
Yeah, and do you sweat so much you don't need to pee during the race, or you pull off?
I do not tend to stop, but you drink a lot, and then about 60 minutes before the start, you stop drinking and you go to the bathroom about 5 times.
Yeah, like one of those horses in Central Park.
Yes, if you want to know between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. on Sunday what I will be doing.
Yeah. Okay. Raise your hand again if you want to get in on the conversation. If you're watching, for example, on the popular social media platform X or YouTube, please don't put smack in the chat. Let's have a smack-free week. Everything in the chat should just be peace, love, and understanding. Maybe admire Sean's shirt from Fairway and Green, or my branded clothes from Fairway and Green, available to you now. Go to twoway.tv/fairway to get something like what Sean's wearing, or the Fairway and Green Two-Way morning meeting merch with catchphrases on the sleeve, like conversations like no other on this one. 20% off. Use the promo code Two-Way.
Oh, you got 2 today. I like that. The vest and the shirt.
I do get 2 today. They both.
That vest, by the way, you got to admit that's a comfy vest.
Yes.
This is another one you could sleep in, ladies and gentlemen. It could double as PJs. All right, as I said, the president's in Asia. He arrived in Tokyo earlier today, and
she's live in Tokyo for us.
Met with the emperor
this morning here,
and nothing till tonight when he's up morning Tokyo time and having a bilat with the new prime minister. The president himself serving kind of like a travelogue correspondent, writing on social media, summarizing the trip so far. 104 said this on True Social as he left Malaysia. Great and very vibrant country, signed major trade and earth deals, and yesterday, most importantly, signed the peace treaty between Thailand and Cambodia. No war, millions of lives saved. Such an honor to have gotten this done. Now off to Japan, and indeed, promises made, promises kept. He did go on to Japan. So that's where the president is today, and don't know what the vice president's doing with the president on this trip. Appearing in many photo ops and standing behind him often on Air Force One as he gaggles with the pool, Marco Rubio, Jamison Greer, and Scott Bessent. House remains out. Some criticism for Speaker Johnson, but he holds firm. Speaker Johnson, traditionalist, back to today, 10 a.m. press conference with other Republican leaders. Senate is in, working on various nominations. I don't know. Are they doing another test vote today?
I heard there is one
today or tomorrow. Yeah,
it's
the troops and the
essential workers. Chris Van Hollen's giving a foreign policy speech tonight at the Fusty Council on Foreign Relations. I don't know if that's in D.C. or
By the way, speaking of Chris Van Hollen, he's one of those guys that I get where he is on the spectrum, but like there's a lot of workers not to be responsive to. Like he's one that I was wondering would have more comment on, but we'll talk about that.
Hakeem Jeffries, since he doesn't need to be in Washington, is in Illinois working with the Congressional Black Caucus to see if they'd be willing to redraw the boundaries. There's some lack of inclination to do that if it means giving up a currently black majority seat.
Yeah.
House of Delegates in Virginia, 4 p.m., also talking redistricting there. All right. Week ahead on Thursday, the president will be in South Korea for that summit. Is supposed to meet with President Xi. Continues to tout the possibility of meeting with Kim Jong-un. Guests on Jimmy Kimmel this week include the great Morgan Freeman and the great Tim Allen. And Stephen Gobert's guests include Sarah Paulson, Senator Gallego, and Sir Anthony Hopkins, plus Judd Apatow. All right, China. Incredible, 105. Incredible behind the scenes. Scott Bessent, Marco Rubio, Jameson Greer, the vice president, all working on a plan. Journal headline, U.S. and China sound confident note after trade talks. Scott Bessent hails, quote, very successful framework for Trump-Xi meeting as Beijing reports preliminary consensus on key issues. This deal ranges across, as is preliminary to agree to, every issue that's been discussed. And there's the president touted also what I've been hearing, which is they're going to try to get China to put some pressure on Russia as part of what is somewhere between a grand and mini grand bargain, as we understand it so far. Sean, is this, how on track is this? And if they strike the deal that Bessent outlined, what will the implications of that be?
I actually think this is really significant. There's a soybean, there's a TikTok thing, which is a push because they kind of already announced it. But whatever, it still is something. The soybean purchases that he leaned into, he sort of said, well, they look like multi-year. And that kind of commitment to farmers in the Midwest would be huge, not just 1 year, but saying a multi-year purchase. I get where Dan's going to say, but does it sustain? Do they go? But I think from an assurance standpoint, especially after what's going on in Argentina, this is a big deal for U.S. farmers. It would be seen as a big win. I think the rare earth stuff would be big. And then some of the other tariff issues coming down, export controls, et cetera. So I think it's actually, like everything else, how long does it last? But it will be a very significant and positive development.
Dan.
I agree. I mean, we just have to see. I also find it curious that at least the U.S. reports are kind of, we got a lot and China got almost nothing, which I find hard to believe. And I find hard to believe that the Chinese, what does Xi stand on the stage? Because he's all about saving face and strength with his domestic audience. So what are they getting? What points will he, sell? But we just have to see if it all comes together and it all actually happens and is executed, then, good on Trump.
Theirs is easy, to be honest. I agree with you. He needs to say something, but their export control and overall tariff number coming way down is a win for them. And he can say, and it's just not as, it's fewer things, but they're bigger.
Well, and of course, if the tariffs come down and people can still manufacture there, then that's good for China.
I have a source who I trust to not spin me, and you just learn over time as a reporter who you can trust to not spin, who says this is going to be very good for the United States and that the U.S. will not gloat about it because they don't want the Chinese to, to back out or they'd rather have the result than the rhetorical victory. So they'll claim it's great for the U.S., but they say it's going to be surprisingly good for the U.S. that they've gotten the Chinese to back down on a bunch of stuff. We'll see if that's right. Russia over the weekend tested a 106, please, a nuclear-powered, nuclear-enabled missile that represents a new capability. Here's the headline from the Associated Press. Russia has tested a new nuclear-capable missile. Putin and top generals say some are casting this as the most provocative action Russia's engaged in besides Ukraine since President Trump returned to office. And no sign of any progress there. Putin did an interview, or Zelensky did an interview with Axios and said the new sanctions are great, but what they still need are more missile capability with the help of the United States. So, Dan, where are we this week on Ukraine, Russia?
I don't think there's much news here. Like I just there's nothing new. The focus is on Asia this week. I am curious whether or not China will lean in and try to end this. That would be a sign. I mean, that would go against everything else China does, which is how do they try to check the United States? That would be doing us a solid to help us with a world problem Now, perhaps they do it for the Europeans because they're going to try to pull them further away from the U.S., but I don't see much new news there.
Sean?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be, hey, we're really busy and we're doing the whole soybean thing and we can't do it. I have a hard, there's just something that says they're not willing to help isolate Russia. That doesn't benefit them.
Yeah.
I think they might do it. We'll see.
Why do you think they would do it? Like, what's their incentive to help us?
Secret wink on Taiwan or
Oh, okay. Well, that would be
by
big.
the way, that's what I'm wondering if this whole backdrop is about, which is we're going to help lean in on a bunch of stuff for you, but let's just be clear what's about to happen, boys.
It's been rumored forever that this is
right.
This is part of it, and Trump really wants to end the war, and that's amongst the biggest cards they have to play. So we'll see. Thursday's going to be a big day.
Yeah.
Live team coverage here on the morning meeting. President twice at least now has said, "Hey, Rocket Man, let's get together."
Oh, wait, can I back up one sec?
Yeah.
Exit question:
Yeah.
Does China take over Taiwan by the end of Trump's term?
Take it over? No.
No. Control it?
Yes.
Dan.
Oh, yeah.
Correct answer, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Twice he's said to Rocket Man, "I'll be in South Korea. I want to get together." He's even said he'll extend the trip for a summit. Of course, he's met with him before, and he's often mocked for being so nice to the guy when really Trump was no different than Bush, Obama, and Biden in the sense that on all the watch of the last four presidents, North Korea's missile capability and nuclear capability continues to grow to some extent, haven't been disarmed. Dan, will they meet?
Yes, they will. And look, it's good too. You should always have dialogue.
Sean, will they meet?
Last night I said no. This morning I'm leaning yes.
I'm exactly the same. Last night I said no. This morning I'm leaning yes.
Can I ask you something? If there is a deal with China, aren't you kind of stepping on it? If there's images of you with
I think it'll be 36 hours later. So the way the summits work, that's plenty.
It's a whole nother episode.
Exactly. You take a
content.
You take a break. You go stream some stuff on Quibi, and by the time you're back, you're ready for a new episode. All right, the shutdown continues. Again, no sign of it ending. There are these deadlines coming up in a number of days, and there's a lot of talk about Snap. LAX was closed yesterday. So in theory, if it were a normal shutdown, this would put pressure on the parties to get together. There's talk of bipartisan legislation in the Senate to start paying different categories of people. After the failed votes last week, there's talk that maybe there'll be a compromise, and certainly air traffic controllers in the military are front and center for a lot of people. But the president's away and doesn't seem eager to end it. And I'll say both sides continue to believe when bad things happen now as a result of the shutdown, they believe the other side will be blamed. So they don't feel any pressure there. So just Sean, after the weekend, taking your temperature, how do you think this will proceed now?
I don't think there's any short-term pain point. I still believe we're looking probably closer to the 15th to the 20th of November as we approach that end of the 7-week deal. And even then, the Republicans that I talk to, and this is the problem, this isn't a negotiation like 10 billion versus 50 billion versus 100 billion. This is subsidies to a program that they fundamentally think is flawed, correctly so. And therefore, that's the problem. It's not just a number negotiation. And they're basically saying we're not going to keep subsidizing what we believe to be a flawed program that the Democrats created. And so I don't understand. That to me is the trick here. How do you what is it that you just buy time and say we'll give you 6 more months of subsidies? I think that might be the only way out, because they do not want to be seen as subsidizing furthering their problem. I mean, I was thinking about Dan's often used analogy. We don't want to reward the arsonist in this case. They created Obamacare. They created subsidies without any Republican votes. And why should we now fix their problem, the fire they started? So I don't know. Maybe it's just a time thing where they buy off 6 months or something.
And of course, the House doesn't want to come back to vote on anything. So there may be some Thune Johnson tension over that. Dan.
Yeah, I actually think there is the movement you're beginning to see about breaking off certain groups to be paid is because people feel a little anxiety. There's a little discomfort beginning to form about just what you said. For Democrats, the stories in local news, we talked about this last week, continued over the weekend about SNAP benefits, the numbers in each state. This is not a blue or red thing. This is just across America. That is real pain points. And I think, I've been hearing from a member of Mr. Jeffrey's team this morning about, well, the administration could fund SNAP if they really wanted to. There is money in a contingency fund. That's because people are getting nervous, right? Like, hey, we got to take care of this. I think by the end of the week, there will be more movement. I don't think it comes to a head, but I do think it's getting there. And I think, Sean, the problem, you could say, well, Democrats created it, let them deal with it. Premiums go up and people start losing health care. It is, it
right,
is
right.
problem,
No.
so
Look, and you're right. I mean, politics is perception. Right. And right now, Republicans are in charge. The fire's on their watch. So it doesn't, for most voters, they're like, yeah, I get it, but we don't care who started the fire. You have to put it out.
But if you're at the NRCC, Sean, and you're the Trump team, you probably don't want to punt this for 6 to 9 months, though. And in the middle of the midterms, have to have this in the headlines. You probably want this like December of 26, before the presidential and after, like a lame duck issue.
So play this out then, because I agree with you, right? But I also think there's enough people on the Freedom Caucus, et cetera, that are saying, so the only way this works is the grand bargain, which is you, Hakeem Jeffries, you got to be willing to put up 115 votes. I'll give you 115 votes. But in the back of his mind, Speaker Mike Johnson knows, you know what? That's Kevin McCarthy math, and that's a problem.
Totally agree with that.
And is that where Trump then has to come in and say, I want to keep the House? Gentlemen, you will do that.
I don't think in the current environment, 115 vote joint whip operation is in the cards. I just can't.
I agree. No, that's exactly. I agree, and that's my problem.
Yep.
How does this work? Because the only scenario is that where they basically say, "Fine, we'll punt because we don't want to deal with it again." But that kind of math in a Trump MAGA world isn't going to fly.
Yeah. Part of the reason I think that shutdown will continue to be hard to solve is the tensions over the ballroom and the devastating destruction for some of the East Room. Strange bedfellows a bit here. The Washington Post editorial board coming out basically saying, of course, Trump had to break the rules. Washington rules would have made it impossible to get this done, and we need a ballroom. Whereas someone who writes for the Wall Street Journal editorial page, do you guys know this person? It's a woman named Colin Levy. You guys familiar with her? She's like on the editorial board of the Journal. I'd never heard of her. She went to Vassar. Just as a fun fact. She wrote a piece that could have been written by Eric Swalwell, talking about how horrible the norm violations were in taking down the ballroom, and really sounding like a lot like a Democrat, published by Paul Gigot on the Journal editorial page. Eric Swalwell, Democrat congressman, one of Donald Trump's very favorite members of the House, 107A, he tweeted this over the weekend about the ballroom. He says basically it should be a litmus test for anybody who wants to be the presidential nominee in 28. Eric Swalwell, don't even think of seeking the Democratic nomination for president unless you pledge to take a wrecking ball to the Trump ballroom on day one. He tweeted that 2 days ago at almost 8 Eastern time. Then the next tweet got 1 million views. The next tweet came, this would be 107B. The next one came a couple hours later. Or, as Ruben Gallego proposes, is another Swalwell tweet, rename it the Barack Obama Ballroom, but a Trump monument to corruption while it stands. So first he said, you got to tear it down. And then he said, well, leave it up, but rename it. We all talked about last week whether the ballroom would still be with us. Again, I think it's inflaming partisan tensions despite some strange bedfellow things. So, Dan, will not should, but will Democrats keep up talking about the norm violations of the ballroom? Or that's its last gasp as an issue?
No, I think they'll keep talking about it potentially the way George W. Bush would end every stump speech with, I will, uphold the honor and dignity of the Oval Office, so help me God. It was a way to reference the Clinton scandals, right? I will not be like this. I think you will see some version. It is going to stand the test of time. Like, it is going to be a physical reminder of an image that sears into, Democrats' heads. And I do not think they should tear it down. I do think the ballroom is necessary, but it will animate and motivate people with a single image.
Yeah, that's a brilliant metaphor to the Bush thing. Exactly parallel. Sean, will the Democrats keep talking about this?
I think some will, But I also think that like it's a dumb, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? So if you actually were to win, then you'd have to say, well, you're not, no one's going to tear it down. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
I
just
agree.
the dumbest thing ever. Because then you'd be left with nothing and you're a Democrat. So how do you pay for it? Um, so I mean, I would say I think some people in the party like Eric Swalwell will do it, but I get he pivoted for a reason,
Yeah.
which is okay. Here's my release valve, which is we'll just rename it.
Is Colin a common name for a female? Collin? Is that a common name for a female?
It might be Irish with the Y. I mean, it could be, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
Turrentine's not a common name, so I give everybody a pass.
Yeah. All right. Biden Harris back in the news. Kamala Harris telling the BBC over
Back to the ballroom.
interview published over the weekend.
There we
go.
go.
She might run for president, but I got a lot of attention. I don't really think she broke new ground. She wrote and she said in her statement when she announced she wasn't for governor, she might run again. And then Joe Biden last night in Boston, winning an award from the Kennedy Library, gave a big speech. Here's the headline from the Associated Press. Biden calls these, quote, dark days as he urges Americans to, quote, get back up. Very familiar rhetoric and didn't talk in great specifics about the Trump administration, but clearly was urging people to stand up there. Gavin Newsom did an interview with Bob Costa, CBS, in which he leans into the prospect of running for president more than he has. I'll spoiler alert. I think the way he framed this is not the best way to frame these types of things. But here's Gavin Newsom telling Bob Costa, yeah, he'll consider running for president. 109, please.
I'm looking forward to who presents themselves in 2028 and who meets that moment. And that's the question for the American people.
Is it fair to say after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying otherwise. I'd just be lying. And I can't do that.
Governor, you have long said that if you ever run for the White House, you need a compelling why, a reason. Are you moving closer to figuring out your own why and your own decision?
Yeah, Nietzsche said if you have a compelling why, you can endure any how. And so I think the biggest challenge for anyone who runs for any office is people see right through you if you don't have that why. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. And so, look, well, that fate will determine that.
I just find that to be all wishy-washy and not like I'm the one, meet the moment, whatever. But in any event, there's two rivers that run around Sacramento. One's the Sacramento River, one's the American River. It's called. I'd never heard of that. The American River. So, in homage to calling Mario Cuomo the Hamlet on the Hudson when he was very wishy-washy, I now call Gavin Newsom the Hamlet on the American River.
Okay.
So we got Biden Harris the past, Gavin Newsom the future. Dan, what's your appraisal of Newsom 28 based on that answer?
I would say up until that answer, Newsom's done things right the last 6 months. But to your point, it was weak, and it was kind of there was no confidence in his voice, which is what you want to project, strength and confidence, which is what he's projected in his taunting of Trump and in his kind of fiery defense of why we're doing the ballot initiative and everything. So hopefully that is not his. Who was it that Ted Kennedy had the uncomfortable interview with 60 Minutes? Yeah, Roger Mudd. There's so much else going on, but I'd rather be Newsom than Harris today, just to kind of, I think, probably state the obvious. I do think, though, Mark, that Harris making that statement is news in that I think she wants to remind people, oh, I'm still seriously thinking about this. I'm still a player. I'm still the former nominee. Whereas I think the rest of the party is just completely moving on. So if you're Harris, how between now and let's say next spring, do you get your name in there? No one in Virginia or New Jersey is asking Kamala Harris to come. Nobody, not even Mamdani, like neither end of the party, neither the moderate or the, fiery progressive wants Kamala Harris near them.
Do you know Mamdani wouldn't take her?
I don't.
Okay,
that's a good flag.
Yeah, but he's not asking.
Well, maybe he is privately. I don't know.
Look, if he's willing to take Hochul and AOC,
oh my God! That, by the way, real quick, in reverse order, the Hochul thing, whole nother story. I think.
Well, hold on, we'll get to that one.
No. Okay. Well, I would just say on Harrison Biden, on Harrison Newsom, I got to think after Kamala's book tour, where she did. I mean, she sold a lot of books. You got to admit it, right? And if you're her, you go, okay, that's a proxy. If you're willing to spend $27.99 on a book that you know how it ends, it's then and you know that it's full of, based on the previews, it's a bunch of excuses. I would walk away from that as an egomaniac saying, wow, look at this. There's a lot of people who want me to run. I agree with Dan on the analysis of Gavin Newsom. He is normally really shrewd. You know that question's coming up. Bob Costa's going to ask you it. Anyone's going to ask you that question. And I could have rehearsed that thing for him. Just been like, look, this country's facing serious existential threats. We're trying to do all this stuff. Our democracy is under attack. The standard fare.
Just look at how Trump did it for 2 years.
I think I have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
Right. Not even a lot to offer. Look, what I've done in California, I've fought back. I know how to take this guy on more than anyone else. I've gotten so many people that reached out to me. I mean, dude, does he want to just clip that?
Right. People are asking me all the time, to consider it. And, I'm going to look at it closely, and I'll talk more about it later. Goodbye. Right. I'm stunned at how weak that was because, as you said, he's been doing well. All right. Lots going on in the New York City mayor's race. The early voting's underway. Jeffries endorsed Mamdani in a mealy-mouthed and low-key way. Schumer still has not. This weekend or last night, a big rally with Bernie Sanders and AOC and the nominee. Here is first. Here's AOC and Bernie teeing up the Mamdani speech in Queens before several thousand, 15,000.
And we will send a loud message to President Donald Trump that his authoritarianism is no good here. We will send a message that to ICE that secret police do not belong here.
At a moment when Americans are extremely distressed about where we are as a nation, economically and politically, a victory here in New York will give hope and inspiration to people throughout our country and throughout the world.
And here's the nominee himself.
Here is what we stand for, my friends. We are going to freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants and use every resource at our disposal to build housing for everyone who needs it. We are going to eliminate the fare on every single bus line and make what are currently the slowest buses in the nation move around this city with ease.
How's he going to do that? How's he going to make the buses go
Because he's
fast?
going to make the other cars disappear.
At no cost to parents.
Mark,
No
what
cost.
this reminds me of is Barack Obama after Super Tuesday when he gave that speech in Houston, where he's like, I'm going to cure cancer, part the scene.
Yeah. But I mean, when he says no cost to parents, I guarantee you I'll be paying for the child care. I'm a parent.
Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast, and together, New York, we're going to deliver universal. We will make our city one where every person who calls it home can live a dignified life.
All right. Politico and other outlets are saying the race is over. Betting markets say the race is over. I'll just say, and I'm not saying Mamdani's not going to win. I'll just say, remember in the primary, ironically, the polling might be just as wrong now as it was in the primary, where Cuomo was shown to be unbeatable. And I'll give you one example of I think the most important of why. Here's a couple days of stats from a couple days of early voting. This is 115A, please. The makeup of the electorate, this is from Gothamist. The voter turnout surges. There's been high turnout in the early voting so far in New York City mayor's race, with boomers and Gen X leading the charge. Here's the data comparing, next slide, please, comparing the turnout by age in the primary, where you can see that the highest turnout was amongst 25 to 34. That's Mamdani's core vote. And now the turnout is highest amongst the oldest voters, who almost certainly will support Cuomo in greater numbers. Pollsters, every poll you look at in this race is going to be making assumptions about the demographic turnout. And they may be assuming wrong. They may be assuming that turnout's going to be younger than it's been so far. Again, doesn't mean Cuomo's going to lose. But Dan, if you were the Mamdani people and you looked at that data, what would you think?
I'd be a little nervous. That would make me a little nervous. because of what you said. It's the inverse of the primary. And, this is something that we've talked about, which is who ultimately turns out. And I would be a little nervous about that if I were them.
Sean, is historically, the older people vote earlier in early voting?
I would say this, and I hate when people do this, so I'm going to do something I don't like, which is anecdotal evidence. I got a lot of texts from buddies who were fairly Sliwa committed folks that the text went something like this. I held my nose today and went out and did something I never thought I would do. I voted for a guy that I think is despicable and disgusting, but I had to do it for my,
Yep.
But like that seemed to be the constant refrain from people in the 50 to 65 age group. Now, that is anecdotal, so it doesn't mean anything. But I do think that this is probably going to be a little closer than people think. And one of the things that's interesting is in a race like this, I will say that it's not a real general election, and that Republicans are not a strong, motivated force. And I think that when you look at the public polling where they're going to be really cheap, the model, as you pointed out, what is that makeup? Older versus younger, how many Republicans turn out, how many independents? That getting that model right is critical to this. And the people who do that well are not public pollsters. And so I think that there could be, I think Mamdani is going to win, but I think that it might be closer than people thought.
Yeah, and I think the metaphor for me is Howard Dean in Iowa in 2004. Could Cuomo get a rally with 13,000 people or however many were in Queens last night? No, he definitely couldn't. But Howard Dean got bigger crowds than John Kerry. Does Mamdani have reportedly 75,000 volunteers? Maybe he does, but that doesn't mean necessarily that he's got to have a turnout operation that makes a difference.
I'll be curious to see. Traditionally, if your internal numbers are not where you had hoped, or you're seeing the other side is surging, right? You turn the dial. Okay, we have a problem. So the tactics you would start to use, is something to now keep an eye on over the next
100%.
More surrogates come in. Does he go negative? Does he get aggressive? That would tell you.
He was pretty negative last night on Cuomo in his speech. The other thing to watch, as Sean alluded to, is the only way Cuomo can make this close, and that's a euphemism for could he shock the world and win, is if Curtis collapses. And although Curtis was great in the two debates, there is this, the anti-Mamdani people have done a good job in the last few days of saying a vote for Curtis is a vote for a socialist mayor. And you're seeing people who would otherwise not vote or would never vote for Cuomo or would have voted for Curtis. You're seeing some switching to Cuomo, and that's going to narrow the gap at a minimum. Either of you want to, we're going to get to questions in just a minute. We got to get three things quick here. Either of you want to say one or two things quick about New Jersey or Virginia governor's races? Anything from the weekend or forward?
I think the one big thing, there's two things. One, there was a big northern New Jersey Jewish coalition that endorsed Chitterelli. Those are the small things that I think on the periphery could make a difference. And then in Virginia, this call to redistrict and call the session back in, I think it may turn off some voters. Again, in a close race, it matters. If it doesn't stay close, it won't. But calling in voters, especially when the entire House of Delegates is up and saying that we're going to have a special emergency session of the House of Delegates for redistricting, get Newsom off the trail, is probably not something that is helpful on the Dem side on the edges.
Dan,
just Dems are a little nervous about turnout in Virginia, in New Jersey. Sorry.
Yep. That's absolutely true. Heard the same thing. All right. The Fed, Scott Bessent, 113. Scott Bessent said on the trip that there's now 5 finalists to be Fed chair. Bloomberg, Bessent names Fed chair finalists ahead of year-end decision. I would say these may be the current finalists. And maybe they'll decide by the end of the year, but they don't have to decide by the end of the year. And if the president doesn't like these people, I predict there could be more. But Bessent says the finalists are Christopher Waller, and Michelle Bowman, current board members of the Fed, former board member Kevin Warsh, Kevin Hassett, and BlackRock executive Rick Ryder. I don't know him. He says those are the finalists. Quick answers, guys. Will one of those 5 people be the next Fed chair? And if so, which one of the 5?
All right, here's my ranking. It's Bessett's to give away, Hassett if he doesn't take it, and then Muron if none of the he becomes the consolation guy.
All right, but Scott says he's not on the list.
Guess what?
Okay.
Neither was Dick Cheney.
Yeah, Dan.
I'm with Sean.
I
think Bessett. I still think he
Okay. I think it's the guy from BlackRock who I've never heard of, or somebody else, not
I
anybody
was
else.
going to say, you've always been door C. You're still on door C?
I'm still door C.
There's no way a guy from BlackRock's getting that.
Well, does the president know that guy? It's going to be somebody the president knows. Well, then no, it won't be him.
He does not know.
Then I'm still on door number C. I don't think any of those 5 people.
The home of DEI.
Okay, but wait, you got to like I think that's why, his Miran to me, or Miran is to me the consolation guy, the guy that Bassett says, I definitely don't want it, but I don't want Hassett. And so what about the guy that we already put there?
All right, real quick, because we got to get through a few more things. The president ruled out running this thing people have talked about where he runs as vice president and then Vance runs as president to get around the constitutional limit. He took that off the table, but he still held open the notion that he somehow might run for a third term some other way. Don't need to comment. President revealed that he had an MRI when he was at Andrews the previous Friday. Didn't really say why. Dan, does that concern you that the president had an MRI and didn't? He said talk to the doctors about it, but of course the doctors aren't available. But does it concern you?
Sure, of course. I mean, look, we all joked he didn't go to get a flu shot for 5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, something's up.
Sean, if you were the White House press secretary now, would you make the doctor available to explain why the president got an MRI?
Well, you got to look at the comment he made. He said the doctors are here. You can now. We all know you can't just walk up on Air Force One.
No,
but
would you make the doctors available either on the trip or back home to explain why he got an MRI?
I think that what I would do is type it up and saying the president did receive an MRI and here's what he did. And that way you can say, here's what it was, here's what it showed.
And advanced imaging, they said. I mean, they said in that statement he had a battery of things.
Yeah.
What was missing was, why is he having a battery of things in a second thing?
100%.
All signs point to potentially heart issues, which 100%. Is common at that age and that weight.
100%.
It is.
100%. Would love to know why he got an MRI. Please pursue it. People who cover the White House daily. All right. CBS's Face the Nation. What's the name of that lady who hosts the show?
Margaret Brennan.
Margaret Brennan. I would say if the White House were ranking biased by the Sunday show hosts, Margaret Brennan would be near the top. And here she is in an interview with Hakeem Jeffries this weekend that caught the eye of many people on social media. It caught the eye of some liberals who said her questions were too tough. And then some conservatives who said, is this the handiwork, the influence of Barry Weiss? Here's which should just be a run-of-the-mill exchange, but really is not. If you look at recent history, Margaret Brennan questioning Hakeem Jeffries, 114C, please.
I want to ask you about something you said. You said Democrats, there are no election deniers on our side of the aisle. You said that back in January. But recently, you've been using the term rigged elections in reference to the upcoming midterms. Democrats were appalled when President Trump used language like that. How do you justify using that now? Doesn't that undermine faith for voters? You need to show up.
No, I've been using that term in the context of Donald Trump's unprecedented effort to gerrymander congressional maps in a partisan fashion all across the country in order to rig the midterm elections and deny the ability of the American people to actually decide who should be in the majority as it relates to the House of Representatives.
You know, Democrats are also going through gerrymandering and redistricting.
No. Well, Democrats are going to push back aggressively to make sure that we have fair maps across the country, not partisan gerrymandering, which Republicans have initiated in state after state after state.
Sean, does that stand out to you as uncharacteristic type of questioning a Democrat would normally get on a Sunday show?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a fair question, and it was a horrible answer. But, I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, again, this gets back to what you expect and what you don't expect. Like Gavin Newsom should have expected a question about running. Hakeem Jeffries is like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be on my team here. So I especially from someone like Margaret Brennan, that was not a normal, like, I get why liberals are outraged because they're not used to this.
Dan, do you think that's the influence of Barry Weiss or a fluke or what?
I think it's the influence of the Ellisons to Barry Weiss. And look, that's fine. Like, balance it out. I mean, so what? Don't be afraid of it. And Sean's point, you need to have better answers.
But also, like, I got to be honest with you. This wasn't some crazy question, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like
neither of them
Brennan, I actually saw that as her as a liberal being outraged like undermining like the narrative, like her being like, we don't do this. This is not what our side does.
That's interesting.
Like,
that's an interesting interpretation.
I think there's a charge to balance this out, ask tougher questions, and they should.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. All right. To your questions in a moment, word from a sponsor. And then if you're here on the two-way platform, you want to get on the conversation, please raise your hand. And we'll get to you in just a moment. Sponsor this morning, the good folks at Lean, takelean.com. You get 20% off the entire site to avoid fad diets, juice cleanses, cabbage soup, those injectables. If you want to avoid weight cycling where you gain and lose weight too much, very damaging, potentially cause diabetes, liver damage, and other health issues. Bottom line, most people do need help to stop weight cycling, and Lean is a great way to do it. Created by doctors, it's an oral supplement, not one of those GLP-1 injectables. And it does three things. It helps you maintain healthy blood sugar, helps you control appetite and cravings, and helps you burn fat by converting it to energy. So again, right now, if you want to try losing meaningful weight at a healthy pace and keep the weight off, add Lean to your diet and exercise lifestyle. Go to takelean.com. Use the promo code two-way. I'm sorry, promo code Mark. Or is it two-way, guys?
It's Mark.
Mark or two-way? Thank you. Promo
Two
code
ways
Mark.
at night.
Yeah, promo code Mark. I always get confused by that. Promo code Mark, 20% off. Go to takelean.com. Use the promo code Mark for 20% off. Lose weight their way. All right, Mike, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and Dan, and thank you for being part of Two-Way. Mike, you there? You guys hear Mike?
I cannot. You're unmuted.
Mike, we
not.
can't hear you. Try one more time, Mike. No? All right.
Wait,
Come back to you. Oh.
Talk. I think you're good.
No. Mike, try again. No. Mike, we can't hear you. Keep working on that. We'll bring you back if you give us a sign. Shamsul, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and Dan.
Hey, guys. I'm in Kuala Lumpur, so I thought I will give an unofficial correspondent review on Trump's visit to KL first, and then I have a question especially for Sean. Is that okay, Mark?
Yes, sir.
All right. I thought that Trump played the visit extremely well. The media over here actually covered both for domestic and for the region. I think he did extremely well, and for the PR of the United States and for Trump administrations, it was beyond my expectation how he conducted himself. So that's my
okay. Thank you for that.
First report. Yeah.
What did you think he would do?
I was a bit concerned that he would be a bit more his braggadocious self. He didn't. He actually played very statesmanlike, and his informal actions, like played very well to the crowd and feedback in the local media.
Great.
Okay. What's your question? Thank you for that.
Okay.
What's your question for Sean, please?
All right. My question is this, actually. I mean, looking at that, I don't know what's happening with the embassy in Kuala Lumpur. I don't think we have had any changes to the ambassador, and I don't think the outreach in terms of American messaging to the region or to domestic has been very well done. And I don't know when that will happen. I mean, I'm just comparing just one day of Trump here and a full year of what has been happening. I don't see anything. In fact, actually prior to that, when the US aid issue fiasco was going on, I did a few checks and I found that two of the NGOs that were donating, money were donated from US aid, were connected to Islamic Brotherhood. So, I mean, it's all very confusing to me, and I'm wondering whether we're going to get any changes in terms of how the reach out, from Washington through the embassy here is going to compete with the Chinese propaganda. That's my question.
Okay, Sean.
I think it's a fantastic question, and there's an overarching issue, right? We talk about this both in terms of how we deal with Europe, obviously, issue in Asia, but then I think also in Africa. How are we presenting ourselves as a better friend and a better alternative than to the Chinese? You look at Africa and the amount of rare earth minerals that they've taken control of, the ports that they've taken control of is very troubling. I don't have a good answer for you, Chantal, but I will say that it's a fantastic question because obviously the Chinese are really trying to make some inroads.
Dan?
Yeah, I just in the last 25 years, as our country has been distracted around the world, China has gone into these countries and struck deals to whether it's on rare earths or military installations in Patagonia in Argentina for satellites and missile tracking technology. And, they tend to come with an open wallet and kind of say, what can we do to help you? We'll build your airport for you and you'll let us take your rare earth minerals. And this is where I say with Trump, the grand question is, he's standing up for America. He's trying to get what's best for America. But at some point, you need to give other people something so they say, God, we like that guy. He did it in the Middle East. But what do we do in the rest of the world?
Thank you for the question. Great question. Very much appreciate it. Mallory, welcome, and tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind for Sean and Dan.
Hey, I'm coming in from South Carolina today. I saw something on Friday, and I wasn't able to get on the Friday afternoon 2A, so I wanted to bring it up today. It was someone else posted it on Instagram, and I came upon something on the White House webpage where they have done a whole thing about the East Wing renovation, their whole process of how they're moving through it. And at the bottom, they had this major events timeline, and the timeline covers all these historical events like design plans, rebuilding after the War of 1812, the 48 reconstruction done by Truman, and then it jumps to the Clinton sex scandal, an Obama Muslim Brotherhood visit, the building of the tennis pavilion by the Trump administration, and then in 2023, cocaine being discovered. It just it feels petty.
Yeah.
And I feel like hearing the Republicans complain about the way Democrats have been treating them, and it's been valid. I'm not saying it's invalid, but I feel like as the Republican Party coming in saying, we don't want to be like the way the Democrats have been to us, and we want to be the party that is better. Why are we doing these kinds of things on the website? And I just want to know, where's the adult in the room? Because at some point, we have to stop retaliating. It's the same thing with the comments about tearing down the ballroom. If we tear down the ballroom, then the next president who comes is going to undo something major that Democrats have done that they want. And I feel like as a voter who kind of goes between both parties, it's getting really annoying that nobody wants to stand up and be like, it doesn't matter what so-and-so did in the last election or 5 elections ago or whatever. When are we going to stop bickering and start being mature and fix the real problems?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering why are they letting them do this at the White House?
Yeah. You speak for tens of millions. Thank you for that. Sean, why wouldn't Susie Wiles or somebody else step in and say, this is just unbecoming and childish, not necessary?
Because it's very on brand. I think that, they enjoy this. They think it's fun to troll them. When they see, I think part of it is, to your point, Mallory, it's in response, right? And that I'm just explaining here. So Hillary Clinton comes out and makes this whole thing about how this was disgusting and it's, not your house. And it's like, well, you stole $190,000 worth of furniture out of there. Let's not go there about talking. So then they were like, okay, well, let's troll her back, right? And this is, it's a tit for tat thing. I guess I don't have an answer. I think I would just say, for a lot of people on the right who are diehard Trump supporters, they're kind of good. We're finally getting it back. We're punching back. It's very on brand for Trump. Instead of just sitting back and saying, well, we'll be better, which is kind of what Republicans have always done. I think there's a lot of folks that are saying, good. I like that we're fighting back. And I think to your question, though, when does it end? You look at the issue of filibusters, right? And I've been a fairly big institutionalist for a while. And I'm getting ready to just say, screw it. Why are we the ones who are not just pulling the plug right now when it comes to the filibuster and keeping the government open when we know the Democrats will do that the first thing that we somehow think they won't go there because we didn't, and we know they will. People are literally running. So to answer your question, part of it is because nobody will stop it. And so you go, well, why would I stop when I know the next person won't?
Dan.
I disagree a little bit. I do think there is a building desire. The marketplace is starting. You can feel the pressure building up. When Trump does the trolling, I agree with Sean. The base loves it. It's on brand. I keep saying it. The middle 10% hates it. We heard it in 24 in focus groups. It's still present now. The risk for Trump is there's so much going on. He's so in front of you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that if I'm JD Vance in 3 years, my worry is there's an exhaustion factor. You may even like what he did, but you're like, I don't want to keep this pace up and this in-your-face confrontational style. I want a change. And if you're JD Vance, you have begun to embrace, and I think it's a little inauthentic, these smash mouth tactics, and you're caught. You can't now get at it. Trump won't let you. You're weak.
Mallory, thank you. Thank you, Mallory. Really great question. Really important. Jackie, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind for Sean and Dan.
Good morning, everyone. Jackie from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So nobody can talk football today because I'm
unless you're in Green Bay.
Oh. Sorry, we had a really Navy is now one of 6 undefeated teams, and the Patriots are, I think, tied almost.
Oh, good gracious.
Yeah, I know.
Between Penn State and imploding and the Steelers imploding, I'm having a very bad fall. I have like 10 different subjects I'd like to talk on, but
pick 8.
Pick 8. I want to talk about the budget for a sec. So my question is, the extension, the CR, is that not Biden's budget they're trying to extend?
Yes.
So it's Biden era funding that the Democrats are voting against. Is that correct?
Well, the problem is all the rescissions and the dough. Like, this is where there's no trust anymore, right? They're like, we're going to agree to it, and you're going to turn around and just do what you want to do, when in some instances it's congressionally mandated and you're just not doing it. Trump has a whole set of arguments why that's, not necessarily true, but that's where the trust factor is broken down.
Well, and then my next question is, if I recall, the House did pass what? How many appropriations?
12.
Like 10 out of the 12?
All 12.
All 12. But Schumer would never bring them up for a vote in the Senate. Is that not correct? Like, wouldn't we have had a budget if Schumer had allowed votes?
Soon could.
Well, yeah, but he can't get cloture. So
Yep.
No,
they can't even get the bills out of committee.
before they took over the Senate.
So the House passed them, then Thune would have to bring them up, and Schumer would have to agree to cloture because it would be a 60 vote on a non-reconciliation approach.
But again, last year before the Senate, before Thune even weren't the appropriations bills sitting there? And at that point, Schumer was head of the Senate. Okay.
No, it's by both parties. All of these happened under Republican watch.
Okay. All right. The whole Biden era, this is Biden era funding. I'm surprised they got all the Republicans on board with it, quite frankly. I mean, it's ridiculous, the spending that's going on.
$38 trillion in debt. 38.
Yeah, it's breathtaking. And then my next question I've been wanting to ask for a while. So I feel dumber every time I watch a congressional hearing with either, it's just the biggest waste of time with especially cabinet members. Is there not some set of standards or decorum that should be followed? And if not, shouldn't the members be censured? And it goes both ways. I don't like how the cabinet members are also fighting back at every little thing. But the Democrats, when they pontificate up there and they start hurling all these accusations at their quote guests, or I don't even know what you call them.
Witnesses, yeah.
The witnesses, I just think it starts there. I mean, they're hard to watch and they're embarrassing. And I do feel dumber for having watched any of them. But I do try to learn. I do kind of want to learn some things. The way they treat each other, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, I started my first committee. I worked in the Senate in 1995. My last committee before I went into leadership was I worked at the House Government Reform Committee during Whitewater, and then the House Budget Committee in the mid like almost 2007, 2008. And committee hearings just have transformed from actually wanting to learn something to staged events where we're going to go after the witness is going to come back. I mean, it's to be honest with you, I find them entirely a joke. Like everything is now, it's literally like a staged political event, a show, if you will.
Right.
The chair, I mean, the committee members want to score a point against the witness wants to fire back. The members are basically filibustering for that. You know, in the most House hearings, they get 5 minutes, one round. In the Senate, depending on the hearing, it's 2 rounds. I mean, 5 minutes where you pontificate for 3 and say, before we go, witness, yes or no, do you agree that you, and you're like, okay, that's not, it's a total waste.
But aren't there rules? Aren't there just
there aren't.
Jackie, as you say, it's both parties, both.
Yes,
whenever you're in the mind, yeah. I mean, ask the Biden and Obama people. The issue too is TV cameras. It is an audition for votes, for donations. If you're the 12th person on the dais, there's nothing new by the time it gets to you. So it's how do I get a clippable moment to make a name for myself?
Jackie, thank you. Sorry we didn't get to all 10, but grateful to you for coming on. Want to try to get Doug in before we have to go. Doug, welcome in. Grateful to have you here and love to know what's on your mind.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's the first time on here, so thank you. I guess the question is to Dan. Dan, my dad was a Democrat. My mom was a Democrat. I voted on both sides of the aisle, and I saw the towers fall myself. I used to train down on Whitehall Street, and I lived in Hoboken, and I saw the whole thing firsthand. And I'm kind of mind blown by how there's not more Democrat leaders who are saying, this is kind of crazy what's happening with the mayoral race. I mean, we're only, 24 years away from that horrible event in 9/11. And to me, it's just, is this the future of the Democratic Party? Is this where it's going to go? And is it going to just keep veering off to the left, extreme left? And is anyone going to try to steer it back? I guess that's my question, because I just keep connecting 9/11 to what's happening right now. And it's just kind of crazy. It's just really insane.
Okay,
so
Doug,
I know we're up against time here a little bit, but is your frustration with the image of Mamdani, with the guy who basically said 9/11 was justified? Is that what you're speaking to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even Mamdani has tried to almost backpedal a little bit about this and separate himself. But I will say this: the city, the electorate is changing. The politics of the Palestinian Israel are changing, both in our party and in the Republican Party. It's a different time and era, and I'm trying to understand it, because I think it's not just here in New York, but it is a broader issue about what we thought was acceptable and what is not.
Okay. Yeah. Doug.
Again,
Doug,
I could talk more, but we're up against time.
Thank you.
Doug, very grateful to you. Thank you for the question. I don't know if you speak for tens of millions, but you speak for at least millions, and many people in the city. Sean, what do you have on tonight?
I'm just going to break down a lot of the president's travel, where we are in the government shutdown, and try to give us a preview going forward.
Okay. Meghan McCain at noon has the great Brett Baer. He's on to talk about everything, including his new book, To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. Meghan at noon. 6 o'clock is Amber Duke will join me on Two-Way tonight, along with some others. Talk about the events of the day, including stuff on the shutdown. Not much will be happening in Asia, of course, because of the time difference, but there'll be plenty for us to discuss. So please join us at 6 o'clock tonight. Amber Duke of the Daily Caller and more. And regular slate of shows this week. If you want to sponsor any of the programs, I want to discuss what that entails. I met a very nice potential sponsor over the weekend that I need to get back with. But please send us an email if you want to invest in Two-Way. Or sorry, not invest, sponsor. And to do sponsor here. Or invest.
Right. Money.
You want to invest you want to invest in our series, please send us an email at invest@twoway.com. But if you want to sponsor, send us an email at sponsors at twoway.tv. Sponsors at twoway.tv. And we'll be back tomorrow in, I'd say, let me check my clock here, about 23 hours. There'll be another episode of The Morning Meeting.
Set an alarm.
Set an alarm and join us, and maybe be one of the people who, like one of our guests today, first-time questioner, join and participate. Grateful
We got to
to you.
start getting people primed. Are we dressing up on Friday? I mean, this is there's a lot of people. Professor Kenny wants to get out there and get that outfit.
What?
I mean,
What for Halloween? Is that Friday?
oh yeah, for Halloween.
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
I'll be coming as a Fairway and Green
Oh wait, I was doing that.
Spokes model for Fairway and Green.
That's two of us.
Everyone else is welcome to wear costumes. Thank you for being part of the two-way community. I'll see you tonight at 6, and we'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day.
Yeah.